Now, when you're negotiating a lot of these things in mediation, the negotiations can lead to more favorable outcomes for both sides, where I'm willing to sacrifice stuff that I don't really care anything about to get stuff that I really want. You can get say, fine, you can have the dog. I don't like the dog anyway. He chews up my clothes, stuff like that. And you get the stuff that you want and get rid of the stuff that you don't want, and you guys can kind of part ways and be in a better position where you're not actually in a compromising situation on a regular basis, which actually gives you a larger success rate in your separation of one another. But if you had a contract from the dating phase, and the dating phase turned into a promotional phase for the wedding, where you're like in the finance level and you're like, look, we got this paperwork here. According to this paperwork, you have all authority over this, this, and this, and you don't have authority over anything else, you guys will be set. But if you followed my lead, like I told you before, and I said, just instead of getting her an expensive ass ring, get her a cheap one if you're gonna get one, because of symbolism. You don't have to buy a billionaire ring. You just get her a little something with maybe three or four stones. Women don't feel good about this while I'm talking about it right now, but on the back end of this, they're gonna be like, hell yeah. And then instead of wasting all this hundreds of thousands of dollars on a wedding where you're paying $100,000 for a party, 200-300 grand for a party, take all that money, put it into a stock, put that stock into a trust, make her the only beneficiary of that trust, and have a contract that says upon termination of this marriage, all she gets is that. You put $100,000 somewhere, or $300,000 somewhere, and let that get 20 to 30% interest, residual interest over the lifetime of whatever marriage that you got. Now, let's ask this question. I ask a lot of ladies, and you guys could tell me what y'all think about this. When I say, okay, are you preferring the large grandstand wedding that's like $100,000, $200,000 wedding, $50,000 wedding ring, or would you prefer $300,000 worth of stock instead? So the value of the wedding put into stocks and bonds and real estate and Bitcoin versus the expensive wedding. Which one would you prefer? Knowing that the assets obtained would generate cash value of upward of $5,000 a month worth of spending money that you wouldn't have to work for, versus a wedding that you would waste that money one time, have one good party, and after that you got to grind to make up for the money that you wasted. But when we started talking about the quantity of people who receive alimony back in 2010, approximately 3% of all divorces left men with money, which is somewhere around 12,000 men out of the 155 million men in the United States. About 12,000 men received alimony from divorces in 2010. Now, it has substantially increased in some times, but you're looking at a survey that has shown that nearly 47% of family law attorneys observe an increase in women's paying alimony to ex-husbands, which is reflected in the border trend where traditional gender roles are being challenged. So in 2024, we're probably going to see more than 3%, but this is going to come from women that actually have money, because again, the gender rules are not, it used to be just, well, the woman gets the money because the woman doesn't have any money, but the law wasn't written based on gender. The law was based on the distribution of assets versus the gains of assets versus the lack of accessibility to resources after the marriage. So back in the historic days, they have this landmark ruling, Orr versus Orr, in 1979. Look at how long ago that was, 1979, that established that men also have the right to receive alimony, ensuring that spousal support is not gender specific. I already told y'all quite a few times over the past 6 months that there's over 8,000 financial institutions in America. Half of them are credit unions. You could put $200, $200 to $500 in a credit union, and you can open 4,000 credit unions if you want to. You can open 4,000 bank accounts if you want to, and each one of those bank accounts protect that account up to $250,000 per account. And each one of them accounts, if you're doing checking accounts, not savings accounts, checking accounts, they're up to right now 5% interest for guaranteed 5% interest, regardless of inflation, for the bank accounts, and up to 7.5% interest on the credit unions, and y'all could be making 5 to 7% interest